You are listening to the Practicing the Art of Small Business podcast with Shannyn Merlo and Julie Parker. Join their conversation about business, leadership, and the self-awareness journey to greater success.
Hello there, Shannyn. Welcome to episode 13 of Practicing the Art of Small Business. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you, Julie. Episode 13, lucky 13.
Lucky 13.
We've made it this far. We're still talking. We're still talking to our audience. So
That's
far,
it.
so good.
No one's dropped off that perch yet. That's fantastic.
Well, to be confirmed, because we've got a bit of a backlog of our episodes, as Julie and I were just discussing. And so who knows what the future holds by the time this episode gets released. Julie and I may no longer be talking. There's a complete breakdown in our collaboration, and in which case it's been great, listeners.
Thanks for your attention. What is our topic today, Shannyn?
Today, Julie, better done than perfect, or is it? Julie, if I recall some of our earlier episodes, you have been noted as saying it's better done than perfect. But I've recently had a few scenarios in my business and it hasn't been perfect. And I've started to make determinations that it's not good to have it better done and that there needs to be a greater improvement on what's been done. And I suppose today's podcast is really just about the discussion around where is the balance and how do you make decisions on, do you move closer towards perfection or do you just get it out, done and dusted?
Yeah, it's a very good topic, Shannyn. And just for listeners who haven't come across that term, better done than perfect, it's a lovely thing to adopt if you, and I'm certainly not a perfectionist, but quite often we don't launch the podcast until we've got this many perfect episodes that have zero mistakes in it and all our marketing is tied up in it with a neat bow on top and everything is ideal. And you can say the same about any project that we do, marketing campaign, new product that we're launching to the market or a new service or even a new hire. I'm not going to hire anybody until that absolute perfect ideal person comes on board. And so when is it useful having the better done than perfect theory play out in our lives? Because getting things done is required to achieve progress, and delaying tactics that we use until it's perfect just stops us from moving forward. And when is it actually not appropriate? That the ramifications of putting something out there or hiring that person that's not ideal, the ramifications are too big for us to bear.
And this all came about as a result of filming. And for anyone who is looking to put themselves on video, I don't know too many business owners who are naturally very, very comfortable with video. And I think that what we've done, Julie, here is we just talk live. And often when I've done video recordings, it has been live. It's been a topic that I'm comfortable with. One take, happy to go. It's a bit of the Shannyn show. But the filming that I've been doing is for YouTube. So I am releasing a YouTube channel, everyone. And by the time you hear this episode, that channel will be live and it will be with the closer to perfect than the done version.
And just quickly, what will the address of that, what would the title of that channel be?
Inspired Outcomes Consulting. So if you look for Inspired Outcomes Consulting, you will find...
Maybe go to your website. I'm sure there'll be a link on your website.
There will be a link on my website. Thank you for that. And there's also going to be a link in the show notes as well. So, and please check out my channel. And you definitely won't hear me be saying, "Hi guys, welcome to my channel." Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Just for this special audience.
Just not on brand. So talking about not on brand. So the conversation with Julie and you listeners came about because I had done some filming for this YouTube channel. And as I've been looking back at the edited versions, I've been really, really uncomfortable watching my uncomfortableness, because at the moment, my Inspired Outcomes Consulting is me. I am the brand, and I've got a certain character. And I'm happy to say that I've got a certain character and I'm not designed to match with everyone. I'm very comfortable around that. But if I try and stifle my character and stifle the way that I am naturally, then it does my brand no favors, because you might watch the YouTube channel, experience me as the polished version that you're seeing on the YouTube channel. But in reality, what you're getting with Julie and I is someone who's, I'm pretty quirky. I like to have a laugh. I like to have fun. Also like to say random stuff depending on whether it's going to add value to the clients. If you like that, we're going to have a great time. If you don't, we're not, and we shouldn't be connecting. So as I'm watching back these videos, they were done in a way that I felt really uncomfortable, and I certainly was not myself showing up. And I was talking to a collaborator of mine who'll be doing the next round of shooting, and we had discussed the pancake scenario, and that it's okay to just get these out because it's the first pancake. And as you would know, if you cook pancakes, you never get the first pancake right. It's always a bit messy. You give it to the dog or throw it outside or eat it when the kids aren't watching, if you've got kids. But when I was watching, and I thought, yes, this is good, but it was really not representing me well, my brand well. I felt that my fear and my uncomfortability was absolutely being projected out. And I'm so passionate about making sure that if we're engaging in anything, it should be worth our time and energy. And so to watch it and feel like I was wasting people's time because they weren't getting a true sense of fun, it wasn't an enjoyable experience for me. So the observer would probably not be getting the fun experience that I want them to have. It really didn't sit well with me. So I've actually made a decision to re-record a number of the videos for the first release for the YouTube channel. And so in this case, it wasn't better done than perfect. It needed to get more perfect, which actually was less perfect, in fairness. In this case, I have made a determination that I want it to be closer to my idea of perfection, but it does mean that I'm repeating a whole things. I've wasted a bit of time. Where do we find the balance between? So I'm actually okay. I'm comfortable with this. But I know that there's a lot of people who, in this particular instance of putting video forward, a lot of people would hold out and not release video at all because they so want it to be perfect. So do you think it's my ego? Or do you think I'm making a good judgment call? And what sort of decision making, if people were looking to learn from this and take something away from this, that wasn't just the Shannyn show, what are the lessons that people can take in terms of making these decisions so that they can either let go of their need for perfection or make sure that they're making a good decision to restart their pancake batter?
Well, I think that you've shown evidence in the past that you're quite comfortable with video and you can do things in one take and then put it out to the audience in your market and be very satisfied with that, whether it be perfect or not. And so I think the evidence shows in this particular case that you can trust your intuition, that part of you that knows your market, knows your capabilities and understands what your true intention is. And so it's scratching at your back saying, just maybe not this one. So I think the evidence is that you're not trying for perfection, you're trying for appropriateness and as a way of nurturing your market effectively, and they get the correct message that you're trying to put across. If the evidence in your world was, I never am happy with the video, it's not so much my concern is around the message that the market's getting, it's the appearance it's how I'm appearing over that video. I'm not comfortable with that, how my hair is, how my speech is, how I hold myself, all of those sort of things. And so I think with your specific situation, I think you can trust your gut. And as a message to everybody else out there is, what does the evidence in your past show? Whenever you have put the brakes on and said, no, it needs to be more perfect than that, has it been working for you, or is it just because you like things to be perfect and that's what you're more comfortable with? Is it more around you and ego And I'm not just talking inflated ego, but just how comfortable you are with putting yourself out there, or actually are your concerns actually around your message and your market?
I think the message was okay for me. I think it was very much about it was actually my ego, but it was my ego based on the fact that I want people to experience that is me on video and that is me in real life. There is actually there's a slight separation. We've all got these different personas that we hold, and business Shannyn is a little bit different to Shannyn chilling out, having a few wines on the weekend Shannyn. But how you would experience me in a business setting is how you'd experience me on these videos, and that's not what they being the audience was going to get. And so my ego was very much about my genuineness and authenticity, because they're big values of mine, and I'm too old now to try and turn up any other way than what I actually
That's
am.
for sure. Look at you.
So I think in this one, for me, it was very much about those values that I hold and a bit of the ego. What about, Julie, products that we're bringing to market where we're tinkering with it all the time and delaying dates and things like that? How do we make decisions between, do we release something that's perfect, or do we release something that is done? Minimum viable product is what some people might be familiar with, especially in software terms where there's beta and beta versions where we know it's not perfect, but we're going to release it anyway and we're going to learn from it. What are your thoughts about the balance between that from a product perspective?
I really like the process of launching a product or service to a market that know that it's in that stage, that there are still tweaks to be made and improvements to be identified. And just framing it that way and sending it out to a number of, for a cheaper or no cost, and the trade-off is that you provide to me your feedback. Where else are you going to get that kind of gold? I mean, we always like to get into the mindset of our market, and we think that we are creating things that they want and need and desire and will pay money for, but we never really know until it's out there and that market is responding to it. And in order to find out whether it's successful or not, it just ends up whether people buy it or not. And who better to let us know apart from, than that market out there that are experiencing it and saying, I love this part about it, I don't love this. Your marketing didn't really tell me exactly what it was going to do. And getting that feedback is gold.
That product testing is really important, Julie, because could you imagine actually making, let's say, a food product and going through all of the mechanisms of finding your suppliers and finding the whole chain of bringing that product to market and marketing it and all the rest of it, and not asking people to taste your food?
Yeah.
There's no point in doing that. And that seems like a fairly obvious experience. But if we're so worried about it being perfect that we never get it to market, we're actually not going to get the feedback that you talk about that will actually improve the product in the end anyway.
And sometimes I think we've got such an attachment on the product that the product or service that we specifically developed out of our own brilliant brains. We've got such an attachment to that even if somebody said within the market, I like the thought of what you're trying to do, but I think you've got to do it wildly different and do it this way instead, we would still have that attachment to our thing. And so we're sometimes shy in getting other people's feedback because we just want to get our thing out there. And then it goes through that long, arduous process of it's not quite working. It must be the way that I'm marketing it. It must be the copywriting that I'm using. It must be the pictures, the mode of communication that I'm getting the message out to my market. And you can spend months to years manipulating how you get your message out there because you've got such a belief in your product that it must be the messages out there rather than the product itself that's failing. And you do have to learn on that journey too. Unless you have got a degree in marketing, it is a process of I've got to try this in various different strategies to give it the best shot of succeeding. But at what point do you then say, I think it's the product. It's not me anymore. It's not my marketing anymore. It's just the product or the service is not well designed. I'm going to pull it right back and either modify it or try something new. At what point do you do that, Shannyn?
Well, I guess specifically for your audience, Julie, because Julie works in dental practices, if you're a dentist and you're trying to practice putting a crown in, I probably wouldn't suggest.
Months and years go by. I still haven't got that crown in. I think it might be me.
just to clarify that. So the question was, how long do you keep trying? I think that you keep trying and this is just a thought off the top of my head more than a scientific analysis and deal with a peer review and all the rest of it. I think that if you are a business owner and you've developed the product, let's say, whatever that might be, and even in dental practices, the product might be the way that you deliver your services, the approach to how people come into the clinic. Correct me if
Absolutely.
I'm wrong,
Yeah.
So that's still a
the customer,
product.
the patient experience. Yeah. Your unique patient experience that you deliver. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've created the ideation, the product itself, and you're still on the tools, my belief is that if you've got people who are buying that product, you can iterate for as long as people are getting value from that product. And when I say iteration, there is always the opportunity to break it down, reinstall it as a different model of product. There is an opportunity to innovate it and improve it. There is an opportunity to completely reinvent it or just to make tweaks along the way. I think that there's always the opportunity, as you said, Julie, to check in with your customers to make sure that the product is actually servicing their needs, because their needs will change over time. So there's a balance between us developing products and changing with market conditions, as well as iterating as just part of our joy of running our businesses. That's my thought.
Yeah, that's good. I think getting that different perspective from fresh eyes is crucial, not just in terms of market research, but in terms of your own personal journey through your own small business and how you're presenting yourself and what you're presenting to your market. Every now and again, get a business coach to come in, assess what's going on, give their opinion. It doesn't mean you have to adopt what they say, but it requires you to be flexible enough in mindset that you can accommodate different ideas and then move forward and possibly modify the way you're doing things. But it's when we're very rigid in our space, it must be done this way and no other way at all, that it makes it very difficult for innovation to step in, creativity to step in and alter how we end up being.
Good thoughts there. We talked about employment at the start. I think that often we do it's better done, I've hired someone and they're not perfect, but I'm just going to take them on the journey because it's better that I've got someone than not. My personal feeling about this, Julie, is that there's such a cost to the business when you've employed someone, but they're not actually adding value to your business. And they may not be perfect, but sometimes better done when you're talking about people who are supposed to be adding value in your business. Better done is not good enough. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it depends on the role I think that they're going to take. There are some minor roles where they're just helping you get minor tasks done or repetitive tasks done, things that are very easily trainable and can be done with that person or somebody else that fills in for them, that doesn't require them to apply the values and the vision of the business itself in order to get those sort of tasks done. So I think in those particular roles, you can say, well, let's just get somebody who is going to hit the mark as much as I possibly can. Maybe the pool of people isn't strong, but I just need that person in because me doing those minor tasks is taking such an enormous time away from getting the important stuff done for this business that I just need that warm body in there doing those things. And I think it's more acceptable in that situation. However, if that person's going to be interacting with your clients and they are going to be rolling out the systems that have been thoughtfully developed so your client has a particular experience, then I agree. I think that's where you really do need to put in the extra hard yards, take that extra time and get that ideal person, because the extra month or 6 months you take now means that you are going to be saving an enormous amount of stress and worry and putting out fires in the years to come. What's that theory that you hire slow and fire fast?
Well, so on that basis, then what happens if you have hired and the person who's in the role, whatever role that is more frustration, more time and energy than the value that they're adding to your business? Is better done having a warm body, feeling that thing, that thing being that task, that role, being that task and that role? Is it better having them in there and not being perfect? Or is it better to do the hard fire? And when we say hard fire, obviously going through
The legal
and
process.
reasonable due process and performance management and all the rest.
And the moral process, making sure you're giving them every
and
chance to succeed.
and all of the caveats around moving people on. What are your thoughts there? Like when you've got someone established and there's loyalty there and there's history there and all the rest of it, and you validate the idea that no, they're not perfect, but they're doing an okay job. What are your thoughts? Have you experienced that in your experience?
I've observed that a lot in the practices that I've gone out and consulted with, that there are people that there are, for some reason, there are some employees that just sap a lot of time becoming concerned about the little things that really don't matter all that much, and wanting to establish little systems around freak incidences that will hardly ever happen again, and they end and want meetings over all sorts of things. And for some reason, this is the space that they hold, but they do take a lot of time from you and quite often a lot of time from other team members as well. And as with any fit that is not fitting, it is the same thing that you and I have spoken about many times in the past. Sit down, clarify expectations, make it very clear their list of responsibilities and how to complete them in a way that is efficient, productive, and creates a happy working environment for everyone involved and delivers a great customer experience. And if they're not achieving those benchmarks, tell them how to train them, support them in any way that they need to. If they're still not reaching those benchmarks, try again. Loop them into all the feedback and making sure that you're doing what they specifically, uniquely need in order to try to achieve the goals that you're setting out. And if they can't, then it's just not going to work out. Get that person off the bus, hire really intelligently the next time, so the next person that replaces them is actually delivering you time, delivering you productivity, and delivering your clients with a wonderful experience. So when you are writing their paycheck at the end of the week, you think, this is an absolute gift. This person's come to me and I'm so happy writing this paycheck because all they do is create joy for my business. And that's what you want. You want to be really super happy with every paycheck that you write.
I just want to double check that we're not back in the 80s with Steve, our used car salesman, where we're writing checks, paychecks.
Oh, yeah. That's how I used to be paid many years ago. Actually, I used to get my first job. I used to get a little envelope with cash and coins shoved in the envelope. So
that's nice.
I'm very old. I think there were 2-cent coins back then too. $1 notes and all.
I just wanted to make sure, just want to check in, because our listeners could potentially, Steve, for those who haven't listened to our podcast, the marketing podcast involves Steve, and there was another podcast that we talked about Steve. Steve is our 1980s used car salesman who wears brown pants and beige t-shirt shirts, like
those short sleeve shirts that you never see now. I don't think you see that now. Yeah. So, but I have heard that I have heard there's an online way of paying people wages, and so I will look into that.
Otherwise, if you work for Julie, she's paying you in cash in an envelope. Or writing you a check.
Welcome to my old world.
because you can't follow the paper trail unless you have a checkbook, Julie.
Oh, it is a good paper trail, that's for sure. What if all the internet just goes down one day? Then everyone's going to be impressed with my record keeping. Well, better done than perfect, or is it? What are your final thoughts on this topic?
I think that if you're prone to perfectionism, as I don't want to admit that I may or may not.
You're less than perfect.
Be slightly affected by a problem of perfectionism. I think that if you have an awareness that there is a perfectionism in play, to really check in on, is this perfectionism, or is there a good reason for delaying, remaking the pancake, things like that. So the decision-making matrix, that was the internal decision-making matrix that I put through my head, was actually number one was the cost to bring these videos out now was probably going to be as much as re-recording and re-editing them. So there was actually a cost-benefit analysis that I did. And when I said cost-benefit analysis, I just literally went, how long is it going to take? It's probably going to take less time. That's probably a better cost.
You analysed it. That's good. That's good.
I did. Yeah. So there was a cost-benefit analysis to doing it. I've been really, really thinking about brand reputation, and one of my big uncomfortable components of it was, will this negatively affect my brand? And every time, no matter how many times other people tried to validate that, oh no, it's not that bad, it was like, no, this is not me, and this is a brand risk for me, and that's, worse than worse than a cost benefit analysis. And the final thing was, one of my values very much is that I don't like wasting people's time. I want to add value. And if you're not going to enjoy listening to me or experiencing me in this way, then I've wasted your time. And that's sat really uncomfortably with me. So I did run it through a bit of a cost benefit analysis on all of those things. And for that reason, it wasn't better done than perfect. It needed to be more perfect. But there are absolutely opportunities to go better done. Maybe not in the spreadsheet that I'm working on at the moment, which is like my little tinkering away, and I keep changing the conditional formatting and things like that.
Because it's got to look just right.
It actually does. But I do think that there is definitely opportunity to really strike that off better done, because especially if you have a habit of being stuck in perfectionism.
It is one of those situations where it's beneficial to have a trusted person or group of people that you're involved with that you can bounce a few ideas off. So if you are stuck in that space, am I really just harboring on this because I want it to be perfect? You can get other people's feedback around that. You can do that through networking groups. You can become part of a mastermind, or you could have, like you spoke about your sister earlier, who's the business analysis and have that trusted person where you can just bounce a few ideas off and they can help steer you in the right direction. We do, as business owners, get so much in our own heads and we think we must have all the answers, but sharing the load a little bit can help drive us down a more helpful path.
I think in that sharing as well, particularly when you're talking about products, employment, branding, the stuff we've talked about today, having trusted people who you know are not going to just validate you for validation's sake can actually be really helpful. It's important to take into consideration, okay, what are my values? But there's plenty of people who will validate and go, no, it's not that bad, whatever that
You're
is.
awesome. You're just so awesome.
Yeah.
What are you doing doubting yourself for?
That product is fantastic.
Meanwhile, you make no money.
Yeah, exactly. That product is fantastic. Oh, that person in your business, they're fantastic. I don't know what you're talking about. Whereas it's the people who challenge you, I think, who you absolutely respect their opinion, when they say, you know what, I don't think it's ready. I don't think you should go to market with this product. I don't think you should hire this person for all these reasons. I don't think you should put that out on your YouTube channel, which I had some people who care about me a lot, and they were like, no, it's not you. I wouldn't be doing that. And I was like, okay, all right. Well, I think that's probably says some things. So I think having someone that you trust who doesn't placate you, who can really offer that contrasting opinion, I want to placate, validate, just for validating sake.
Yeah. And when you're asking other people's opinion, you're not asking, what should I do? What you're asking for is feedback, additional information for you to take into your brain, so then you yourself can make a decision. And so don't ever be shy about asking for that feedback from people around you, because it doesn't mean you have to do it, and it doesn't mean they're right. It's just providing you with additional information.
I think at the end of the day, though, part of being a business owner is that we have our gut feel, our intuition. I don't think our mouths are working on this.
Yeah, that's it.
Our intuition and that sort of gut feel, and we can put as much spreadsheeting around a decision as we like. But at the end of the day, and I hate the cliche, but at the end of the day, often the numbers might not stack up in this area or that area. But if our gut is telling us, and we're so convinced on this gut, and we've got all these people giving us our different opinions, but our gut still says this isn't good, I'm not happy, I'm not ready to go, I'm very aware of my perfectionistic issues, but I'm still not happy, then part of being a business owner, live and die by your own sword. So if you're not ready to die by the sword by putting whatever it is out there, or hiring that person, or moving that person on, then make a different decision.
There were never going to be guarantees that we were going to get everything right and perfect at all times. And part of us as human beings is an intuition and sixth sense. And we need to start moving more towards that and trusting that, rather than moving away from that and just relying on the mechanics of business that are delivered to us through podcasts and books and YouTube videos and courses and everything else like that. I think tapping back into our intuition is a wonderful thing, because we internally know things that we just don't know why we know it. We just have that strong feeling. So don't just discredit that completely, but be comfortable that you're not going to get 100% of the decisions right 100% of the time. That's the one element of perfection that you will never, ever achieve. But the journey will lead you towards your success if you approach it thoughtfully.
So, Julie, we would love interaction with our audience, because that's our jam. Well, our jam is kind of helping people. And so if our audience wants to be helped, I guess we should offer an opportunity that if you're in a better done than perfect scenario and you would like Julie and I to pull it apart, offer our opinions, and provide some level of advice or experience or some questions to ask yourself, then we would love to hear from you. Our contact details are in the show notes. So please get in contact with either Julie and I, or I don't think my mouth is working today, Julie. And I'm definitely not better done, or I'm definitely on the better done for this recording than the perfect.
I'm done.
So get in touch with us, because that way Julie and I can share our experience, and you can use your own intuition on whether what we've provided serves and supports and you want to take that advice on, or whether you want to go down a different path, because it's all well and good. It's your journey. But do get in touch with us. We would love to brainstorm your problems.
Absolutely. That's a tremendous idea. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you enjoy it. Please do give us a 5-star review, whether you like it or not. We would love a 5-star review. And I look forward to seeing you next time, Shannyn.
Look forward to seeing you. Thank you, listeners. Looking forward to having you hear us. Something along those lines.
Have an enjoyable few days until we speak again.
Ciao.